Crash Landing is a Minecraft mod pack, and it runs in hardcore mode, which means if you die, it's game over and your world gets deleted. So I have prepared a list of tips and tricks to help you along the way. You'll still likely have to restart quite a few times before you make it into a long game, but these should help you get started if you're having a hard time. The first thing to remember is there are issues to deal with that you don't have to deal with in vanilla. Like, you have to think about your water, you have to think about your temperature. Your temperature you should be able to see in your lower left-hand corner. There's a temperature gauge. The white dot represents your temperature. The black marks represent the ambient temperature of your location, which means that your temperature will slowly rise or lower to the ambient temperature. Obviously, in this mod, it's mostly the ambient temperature is going to be above your temperature, so you basically need to worry about overheating. The camel pack that they give you in the quests is going to be very helpful, as if you keep it stocked with water, it will keep your temperature down. There are some things to watch out for that will affect your temperature negatively. Using torches will heat up the area. Using machines will heat up the area. Lava and the pyrotheum spilling out of the engine outside will also heat up the area. If you catch on fire, that will heat you up really fast. Also, wearing armor will heat you up. With the exception of metal armor will cool you down at night, and diamond armor will cool you down a bit in the sunlight. Food is scarce and going to be hard to come by. There are some things to remember. Unlike vanilla, doing nothing and just standing still does use hunger. It uses just as much hunger as walking around does, so there's no point to just standing around doing nothing, so you need to act fast. If you sit down, it'll pause your hunger. So if you have a lot of sifting to do, you should move your sifter over to your chair or move your chair over to your sifter. The mob drops are going to be your main food source in the very beginning, so having some sort of a mob farm or just going outside first thing in the morning and picking up all the bones and zombie flesh is going to be something you're going to want to do. If you the guide tells you that you can salt the zombie flesh, but what it doesn't tell you is you can also put it on the drying rack, which is the rack that the needle gun comes on, and that will turn it into zombie jerky. You can also make stock out of the bones. It guides you through that in the questing book. But what you might not realize is stock is actually a really good food source in the early game, because one bone makes 3 of it, and it restores quite a bit of hunger for an early game food source. If you want to grow crops, the tool you're going to need is a mattock. It's a Tinker's Construct tool. If you make a vanilla hoe, it's going to break in one use. The mattock is made with a shovel head and an axe head. You can make both of those out of bone meal. I recommend using bone meal instead of bones, because the bones you can use to make stock. Once you're far enough in the game that you can make a lot of dirt and sift a lot of dirt, you can get some good seeds. The soybeans are an especially noteworthy one, because they can be used as a substitute for meat in a lot of the recipes. On the issue of water, as early as you can, I would suggest sparing 2 iron and making a pair of shears. You can use it to shear leaf blocks, and you can use the leaf blocks in much the same way you would use saplings, melting them down in a crucible for water, composting them into dirt and making dirty water, using them in a fluid transposer, but with shears you get a leaf block every time you break a leaf block instead of sapling, which you get occasionally when you drop a leaf block. Uh, Also, if you'll notice, when you start getting hot, you get this sweating effect, and that actually affects your water level. You start to lose water faster when you're sweating. So try to stay cooler than that if possible. Use the camel pack for your water. It's actually better to put your water in the camel pack than it is to drink it because it keeps you cool, which keeps you hydrated. If you try to right-click a empty water bottle on the water that's pouring out of your ship, you'll notice you get salt water. But one thing you might not know is if you go really deep down and you place a water source, instead of being salt water, it'll be dirty water. So you can smelt that up for clean, drinkable water, as opposed to a salt water bottle, which if you smelt up, you'll just end up with salt. It's probably a glitch, but for some reason, if you click on etching acid with a bottle, you can get clean, drinkable water that way as well. Mobs are a huge threat. You're going to want to stay completely safe at night, or you're going to get overrun. So most people close themselves into the ship at night. It might also be beneficial to dig a trench or build a wall. The goal both being to make a place where all the drops end up, and also to make it so it might someday be safe enough for you to grow trees at night. Or you could dig a hole under your ship big enough for trees to grow, or build your ship up into the sky where mobs can't reach you, and make a tree farm up there. Some people have recommended using a bone pan as a weapon, I guess because of the knockback, which can be very helpful for the creepers, which you will probably mostly be dealing with, as they'll still be around in the morning. You can use the mattock, which you probably made for food. You can use it as a weapon, since it also works as an axe. Or if you made an axe, that makes a pretty good weapon early game, because you can't make a sword out of bone meal. The questing guide takes you through the steps of making wooden armor, but what it doesn't tell you is that you can actually make leather from zombie flesh by cooking it, and of course you can make your vanilla armor that way. Then some other general tips. Maybe you've been able to survive the first day or two and you need some more long-term tips. You can actually make a cobblestone generator by digging a trench and bringing that water over to the pyrotheum. You don't even have to make lava that way, and you can get a cobblestone generator by just making those two flowing substances meet. You can make lava in a crucible by melting down cobblestone. You have to do it over a heat source, but a torch works fine. It just is slower. You can get moss stone by leaving cobblestone near a water barrel, one of those wooden barrels with water in it, and you can use that to make a moss ball, which you can attach to your tool to give it the repair quality, which is a good way to make those metal tool heads that you're given in quest rewards last a little longer. That way, even before you have access to the metal, you can still repair it and have it for an extended period of time. Once you have access to sugar cane, you can make punji sticks, which are a good way to automatically kill mobs early game. Also, once you have access to cactus, you can use that to create water. You can craft it into water. Once you have a lot of ingredients, there are some food items that, because of how much food value they have, they're basically immune to the diminishing hunger thing. One such item is a bacon cheeseburger. You can survive on nothing but a bacon cheeseburger. You can just eat those forever and you'll be fine, and it won't diminish the amount you get from it. Um, Also, out in the desert, there are cities. These have mob spawners and are very dangerous, and so they should be avoided until after you get a shell constructor, which is basically your way of overcoming the one death game over, because it creates a clone. I think I'll probably make another video on shell constructors and how to quickly make them. Well, as quickly as possible. They're a bit tricky. They require some tricky stuff. But that's all my tips for today. If you have any tips that you want to share, feel free to leave them in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you next time, guys.